Picture this. August 479 BC, the plains of Boeotia. The largest invasion force the ancient world has ever seen stands camped along a river, their commander confident that one more battle will break Greece forever. Everything seems under control. Then, in less than one afternoon, it all disintegrates. Not a gradual defeat, a chain reaction collapse, water access cut, supply lines strangled, a nighttime repositioning misread as retreat, a premature attack launched in overconfidence. A single arrow finds the one man holding it together, and suddenly, the most powerful army on earth is stampeding toward their own fortified camp in blind panic, trampling each other to death at the gates. This isn't a Hollywood disaster sequence. This is the Battle of Plataea. The moment Persia's grip on mainland Greece didn't just loosen, it shattered. One battle, one day, one corpse, and an empire's entire European campaign collapses like a house of cards. For a year, the Greeks had been done with, running. Their cities burned, their temples desecrated. Salamis bought them time, but Xerxes left behind his best general with orders to finish what he started, by bribery if possible, by blood if necessary. Mardonius nearly succeeded at splitting the alliance. He owned the terrain. He had cavalry that could strangle any Greek formation. All he needed was one mistake from his enemies. Instead, he made the fatal one, and it cost Persia everything. This is the story of how empires don't just lose battles, they lose the ability to function. How a single point of failure can unravel months of strategic positioning. How the Persians went from dictating terms to Greece's greatest cities, to fleeing a killing field where their own fortifications became a death trap. Plataea is where the Persian invasion didn't just end, it imploded. And whether you're watching from Athens, Tehran, New York, or Tokyo, this collapse holds lessons that echo across 2,500 years. What happens when pressure builds in the wrong places, when communication fails at the worst moment, and when everything that can go wrong does, all at once. Let's rewind to where this disaster was built, piece by piece. The closer. The aftermath of Salamis, September 480 BC. The wreckage of the Persian fleet still drifts in the Straits of Salamis. Xerxes, king of kings, ruler of the largest empire on earth, stands on the Greek shore watching his naval supremacy burn. He has a decision to make. The army is still massive, still dangerous, but the fleet that was supposed to supply it, to outflank Greek defenses, to make this invasion unstoppable, that fleet is gone, and winter is coming. Xerxes chooses retreat. He will take most of the army back across the Hellespont before the Greeks can cut him off. But he's not abandoning the campaign. He's leaving behind a finisher. Mardonius. Think about that name. This isn't some second-string general given a hopeless rearguard. Mardonius is Xerxes' brother-in-law, his most trusted commander, the man who first convinced Xerxes to invade Greece in the first place. He's not here to hold territory. He's here to win. And he's given command of the elite, the immortals, the best cavalry in the ancient world, and enough infantry to crush any Greek army in open battle. Roughly 100,000 men. Maybe more. His orders are simple. Finish what Xerxes started. But here's what makes Mardonius dangerous. He's not a brute. He doesn't just want to smash the Greeks. He wants to break them apart first. Diplomacy before blood. Divide, then conquer. Stay with me, because what happens next almost works. The bribery gambit. Winter 480-479 BC. While his army camps in Thessaly, Mardonius sends envoys south. Not to Sparta, to Athens. The offer is extraordinary. Full autonomy. Keep your government, keep your laws. Persia will rebuild every temple we burned. We'll give you any territory in Greece you want. Just switch sides. Think about what Athens has lost. Their city, burned. The Acropolis, rubble. Their population, refugees scattered across the Aegean. And here comes Persia offering to make them the dominant power in Greece, backed by imperial gold and imperial armies. All they have to do is betray the alliance. The Spartans are terrified. They send their own delegation, begging Athens to refuse, promising to house Athenian refugees, promising future support. They know, if Athens flips, the coalition dies. Greece falls. The debate in Athens is real. This isn't a simple decision. These are desperate people being offered everything they've lost. But Aristides, the Athenian statesman they call the Just, delivers the answer to Mardonius's envoy. As long as the sun keeps its present course, we will never come to terms with Xerxes. The scroll is rejected. The alliance holds. Mardonius has his answer. Diplomacy has failed. Now comes blood. Here's where it gets strange. That rejection should have been a setback. Instead, Mardonius seems almost pleased. He wanted to try the easy way first. Now he gets to do what he does best. He marches south. Athens is burned again, this time deliberately, thoroughly. A message. This is what refusal costs. But burning cities isn't victory. Victory requires destroying the army, and for that, Mardonius needs the Greeks to come to him. On ground of his choosing, he finds that ground in Boeotia, along a river called the Asopus, and he waits. The coalition marches. Summer 479 BC. The Greeks finally move. It's the largest Greek army ever assembled. Sparta sends 10,000 hoplites, 5,000 Spartiates, 5,000 perioikoi. Athens contributes 8,000. Corinth, Megara, Tegea, and dozens of smaller city-states add their own forces. In total, somewhere between 40,000 and 80,000 men. But here's the thing about Greek coalitions. They're held together with pride and paranoia. Every city-state wants glory. Every city-state suspects the others of cowardice or treachery. They've been rivals for generations. Now they're supposed to fight as one. Command falls to Pausanias, nephew of Leonidas, regent of Sparta, and a man obsessed with omens. He consults seers before every decision. He won't attack unless the sacrifices are favorable. To modern eyes, it looks like superstition. To his men, it's how you know the gods are with you. The Greeks march north through the Cithaeron passes into Boeotia. They're committing now. No more waiting behind walls. No more naval tricks. They're going to face Mardonius in the open. But as they descend toward the plain, they see what's waiting for them. The Persian camp. Massive. Fortified with wooden walls, straddling the Asopus River, and between them and that camp, flat, open ground, perfect cavalry country. Pausanias stops. He surveys the terrain, and he understands the trap. Watch what happens next. Terrain as villain, the killing ground. Let me paint the geography, because geography is about to become the most important character in this story. The Asopus River runs roughly east-west across the plain. North of the river, the Persian camp, their backs to Thebes, their supply lines secure. South of the river, the foothills of Mount Cithaeron. Rocky, broken ground that rises toward the passes the Greeks just came through. Between them, the plain. Flat, open, cavalry paradise. Now look at it from the Greek side. If they march down onto that plain, Persian cavalry will encircle them, pin them, and shower them with arrows while the infantry watches. Greek hoplites are devastating in close combat, but they have to reach the enemy first. On open ground, they never will. Now look at it from Mardonius's side. If he marches uphill into those foothills, his cavalry advantage disappears. His lighter infantry will be fighting uphill against bronze-armored Greeks in terrain that breaks formations. It would be suicide. So nobody moves. The Greeks camp on the lower slopes of Cithaeron, near springs that give them water. The Persians hold the river and the plain, and both armies wait. Days pass, then more days. Each commander is trying to force the other to make the first mistake, This is the stalemate that will eventually shatter. Remember this terrain: river, plain, foothills, springs. We're going to keep coming back to it. Because Mardonius has a plan, he can't force the Greeks to come down, but he can make it impossible for them to stay up. The death of Mecistius. The cavalry harassment begins. Persian horsemen sweep along the base of the Greek position. They don't charge the hoplite lines. That would be suicide. Instead, they probe. They shoot arrows. They look for weak points, isolated units, any opportunity. And commanding these raids is Mecistius. Remember that name. He's the Persian cavalry general. Tall, famous, riding a horse with a golden bridle. His men worship him. He's the visible edge of Persian power, always in front, always dangerous. During one of these skirmishes, Mecistius spots a gap. Megarian unit has advanced too far from the main line. He leads his cavalry straight at them. The Megarians buckle. They send desperate messages. We need help or we're finished. A unit of Athenian hoplites rushes to support them. The fighting gets close. Mecistius is right in the middle of it, too close. His horse is hit, goes down. Mecistius is thrown. He should have been captured, should have been ransomed. That was how these things worked. But Mecistius is wearing scale armor under his tunic. The Greeks stab at him. He keeps fighting. They can't bring him down until one of them finds his eye. The blade goes through his visor. Mecistius dies in the dirt, surrounded by enemies, his golden bridle trampled in the dust. When the Persians realize what's happened, the reaction is immediate. Cavalry charges in waves, trying to recover the body. But the Greeks drag it back to their lines. That night, they parade his corpse through the camp. Every unit gets to see him. Here's why this matters. It's not the loss of one officer, it's the crack in the image. Mecistius was supposed to be untouchable. The cavalry was supposed to be invincible. Now the Greeks know they bleed, they die. They can be beaten. First domino, the pressure system. Mecistius is dead, but Mardonius doesn't panic. One commander lost, it happens. The strategy is still sound, and the strategy is suffocation. Persian cavalry shifts from harassment to strangulation. They stop trying to break the Greek line. Instead, they start breaking everything behind it. The Citharon passes, those mountain routes connecting the Greek army to the Peloponnese, become killing zones. Supply convoys trying to bring food and reinforcements are ambushed. One column of 500 pack animals is caught in the open. The cavalry cuts it to pieces. Drivers slaughtered, animals scattered. Grain meant to feed the army left rotting in the sun. Stay with me. Because this is where the clock starts. An ancient army isn't a machine. It's a living organism. It needs water. It needs food. It needs both, constantly, or it dies. And Mardonius has just put a tourniquet on the Greek supply line. But that's only half of it. The Greeks have been drawing water from the Gargaphia spring, a reliable source just behind their position. It's not much, but it's enough. It's survival. Persian cavalry finds it. They don't just harass the water parties, they foul the spring itself. Horses driven through it, bodies dumped in it, mud churned until the water is undrinkable. Think about that. Tens of thousands of men, Greek summer, bronze armor, no water. Pausanias sends scouts to find alternatives. There's another source, a place called the Island, a spot between two branches of the Ouro River, closer to Plataea. It has water. It has slightly better ground. But it's also closer to the Persian line. And getting there means moving the entire army. At night, without breaking formation. Here's the dilemma. Stay where they are. The army dies of thirst within days. Move to the new position. Risk chaos in a night march. Possible Persian attack during the repositioning. There's no good option, only less bad ones. Pausanias gives the order. Tonight, the army moves. The night march. Darkness falls. The Greek army begins to move. Immediately, everything goes wrong. The plan is simple. The center contingents move first, falling back toward Plataea. Then the two wings, Spartans on the right, Athenians on the left, follow in sequence, maintaining cohesion. The center moves, but they don't stop at the planned position. They keep going. Whether it's confusion, fear, or simple breakdown of communication, the center contingents end up scattered around the walls of Plataea, almost 2 miles from where they're supposed to be. The army is now in 3 pieces. And it gets worse. On the Spartan wing, a commander named Amompharetus refuses to move. He's a Lakos commander, roughly equivalent to a captain, and he's furious. In his mind, retreating from the enemy is cowardice. It doesn't matter that the springs are fouled. It doesn't matter that Pausanias himself gave the order. Spartans don't retreat. Pausanias argues with him. Hours pass. The rest of the wing waits. The Athenians, on the far left, wait for the Spartans to move first. Everyone waits. The night bleeds away. Think about that. Here's Mardonius, somewhere in the Persian camp, possibly awake, possibly receiving reports. And the entire Greek army is paralyzed because one officer won't follow orders and one commander won't leave him behind. Finally, as dawn approaches, Pausanias makes the call. The wing moves. Amompharetus, seeing himself about to be left alone, finally follows. But late, separated, out of position. The sun rises, and Persian scouts see everything. The misread. Put yourself in Mardonius' position. For days you've been squeezing this Greek army, cutting their supplies, poisoning their water, waiting for them to crack. Now, your scouts come racing back with news. The Greeks are retreating. Their line is broken into fragments. The center is scattered around Plataea. The Spartans are isolated on the ridges, barely moving. The Athenians are separated from both. This is what you've been waiting for. Every instinct says, attack now. Catch them disorganized. Don't let them reform. Here's the thing. The scouts aren't wrong. The Greek army is fragmented, but they're not retreating. They're repositioning. The chaos is real, but it's temporary. If Mardonius waits a few hours, they'll consolidate at the new water source. The opportunity will vanish. But Mardonius doesn't know that. All he sees is an enemy in disarray. All he hears is retreat. Second domino. He gives the order. The Persian army advances. Cavalry first, then infantry, then everyone. The entire force surges across the Asopus toward the Greek positions. Watch what happens next. The collapse cascade. The premature strike. The Spartans are still moving, when they see it. Dust clouds rising from the river. The thunder of hooves. The entire Persian cavalry force bearing down on them. Pausanias halts his men. They're not in their planned position. They're not formed up properly. They're caught mid-march on broken ground with the best cavalry in the world closing fast. He does the only thing he can, form up and fight where they stand. The Tegeans are with them. Allies, positioned on the Spartan wing. Together, maybe 11,500 hoplites against everything Mardonius has. Persian cavalry hits first. Arrows darken the sky. The Spartans raise shields, lock formation, and wait. They don't charge. They don't break. They just endure. Behind the cavalry comes the infantry. Persian foot soldiers set up their wicker shields as a barricade and begin pouring arrows into the Spartan lines. It's not a battle yet. It's target practice. Spartans are falling. The line is holding, but men are dying, and they haven't even reached the enemy. Pausanias sends for help. Messengers sprint toward the Athenian position. We need you now. But the Athenians have their own problems. Theban forces, Greeks fighting for Persia, have moved to block them. Athens can't reach Sparta. They're fighting their own battle half a mile away. The Spartans are alone, and the omens are wrong. Pausanias keeps sacrificing. Keep checking the signs. The seers keep telling him, unfavorable. The gods don't want you to attack. His men are dying under arrow fire, and his seers are telling him to wait. Here's where it gets strange. A modern commander would ignore the omens. Charge. do something. But Pausanias is Spartan. The gods matter. The rituals matter. You don't fight without divine approval. So the Spartans stand there, shields up, taking casualties, waiting, until the moment shifts. Some sources say the omens finally turned favorable. Others say Pausanias simply couldn't wait any longer. Either way, the order comes. The Spartans charge. The close fight. Understand what's about to happen. Persian infantry isn't weak. They're veteran soldiers from across an empire. Persians, Medes, Sakae, others. They fight with shorter spears, wicker shields, and incredible courage. One-on-one, in open skirmish, they'd win. But this isn't open skirmish. This is the Spartan phalanx at full momentum. Bronze shields locked, 8-foot spears leveled, hitting a line of wicker barriers designed to stop arrows, not armored men. The barriers shatter. The collision is total. Persians grab at Spartan spears, trying to break them. When the spears snap, it becomes sword and knife work, close enough to see the fear in each other's eyes. The fighting around Mardonius is the most intense. He's not watching from the back. He's in the front, mounted on a white horse, surrounded by his elite guard. 1,000 of Persia's best warriors. They fight like men who know everything depends on this moment. And they're right, everything does. Because the Spartan line doesn't break. It bends, it bleeds, but it keeps pushing forward. Here's the image. 2 bronze-armored Spartans die for every armored Persian they kill. But the Persians run out of armored men first. The elite guard is cut down around Mardonius. His protection is melting away. And then the blow comes. Sources disagree on what it was. A stone that cracks his skull. A spear that finds a gap. An arrow that no one saw coming. It doesn't matter. Mardonius falls. Third domino, the collapse. An army is a system. It has structure, communication, chain of command. It functions because every piece knows its role and trusts that the other pieces are doing theirs. Mardonius was the center of that system. Not just the commander, the symbol, the presence that said, "We are winning, we are in control, Persia is inevitable." Now he's a corpse in the dirt. The men closest to him see it happen. The 1,000-strong guard that was fighting to the death. They see their general fall and don't stop fighting. They die around his body, almost to the last man. But behind them, the rest of the army sees something different. They see the guard falling. They see the Spartans pushing forward. They see, or they hear, the rumor that passes through an army faster than any messenger. The general is dead. That's it. That's the crack that breaks everything. The Persian line doesn't retreat. It dissolves. Men who were fighting one moment are running the next. Not a withdrawal, a rout. Soldiers throwing down weapons, shoving past each other, all of them with the same thought. Get to the camp. Get behind the walls. Get safe. Fourth domino. And this is where Persian planning becomes Persian death trap. Remember the fortified camp? The wooden walls Mardonius built to protect his army? Those walls have gates, limited gates, and now 80,000 men are trying to fit through them at once. The stampede kills more Persians than the Spartans did. Men are crushed at the gates, trampled by their own cavalry, pushed into ditches and suffocated under the weight of others. The camp that was supposed to be a refuge becomes a killing pen. The Greeks reach the walls and don't stop. They tear through the fortifications. They pour into the camp. What happens next isn't a battle, it's a massacre. By the time the sun sets, the Persian army has ceased to exist as a fighting force. The sources claim 100,000 dead, almost certainly exaggerated, but the reality was catastrophic enough. An entire imperial army, the force that burned Athens, the army that was supposed to conquer Greece forever, gone. In one afternoon. One commander survives with his force intact. Artabazus. He'd held back from the initial charge, seen the collapse coming, and withdrawn his 40,000 men northward. They'll make it back to Asia eventually. Everyone else dies or scatters. The killing pen. The Greeks pour over the wooden walls. Inside the camp, there's no formation, no resistance, just chaos. Persian soldiers who survived the rout are trapped between walls they built for protection and enemies who no longer have any reason to show mercy. The Tegeans breach first, then the Spartans. Then the Athenians arrive, fresh from crushing the Thebans, and the slaughter intensifies. Tents are torn apart, treasure wagons overturned. The gold and silver Mardonius brought to pay for victory becomes loot for the men who destroyed him. Somewhere in the carnage, they find Mardonius' body, or what's left of it. The personal tent of the man who burned Athens twice is now a Greek trophy. Stay with me, because here's the detail that captures everything. The Persians built this camp to win a war. Every wall, every gate, every defensive position was designed to project power, to say, we're here to stay. Now those same walls pen in the dying. Those same gates are clogged with corpses. The symbol of Persian permanence becomes the architecture of Persian annihilation. By nightfall, it's over. The Greeks stand in a field of bodies, surrounded by more wealth than most of them have ever seen. Gold cups, silver armor, embroidered textiles, war horses with golden bridles, the personal effects of an empire that thought it would rule here forever. Pausanias walks into Mardonius's command tent. He sees the furnishings, the carpets, the gold, the luxury that Persian generals carried even on campaign. He orders the servants to prepare a meal the way they would have for Mardonius. Then he invites his officers in. They eat Persian food on Persian plates in the tent of the man who was supposed to conquer them. And Pausanias laughs. "Look what the Persians gave up," he says, "to come and take our poverty." The line might be invented. Ancient historians loved a good quote, but the meaning is real. One day, one corpse, and an empire's entire European campaign collapses like a house of cards. The meaning. Why this matters, think about what just happened. In a single afternoon, Persia went from controlling mainland Greece to having no presence there at all, not a gradual withdrawal, not a negotiated retreat. A total system collapse triggered by a chain of failures that fed into each other until nothing was left. Let's trace the dominoes. Water. The Gargaphia spring gets fouled, forcing the Greeks to reposition at night. Without that pressure, they stay in place. No night march. Communication. The night march falls apart. Center scattered, Amampharitus refusing orders, wings separated. Without that chaos, the Greeks reform cleanly. No appearance of retreat. Intelligence. Persian scouts see the fragmented army and report a retreat, not a repositioning. Without that misread, Mardonius waits. No premature attack. Command. Mardonius leads from the front, gets killed in the close fighting. Without his death, the Persian line might hold. No instant collapse. Morale. The army sees their general fall and breaks. Without that psychological shockwave, they might retreat in order. No stampede. Infrastructure. The fortified camp becomes a death trap when the rout hits the gates. Without those walls, more Persians escape. No massacre. Each failure feeds the next. Cut any single link, and the chain might hold. But they all snap, one after another, in the space of hours. That's not just a military defeat. That's a system imploding under cascading pressure. The echo. Persia didn't stop being an empire after Plataea. They remained the dominant power in Asia for another 150 years, until Alexander came. But they never tried to conquer mainland Greece again. Think about that. This is an empire that stretched from Egypt to India. They had limitless resources, millions of subjects, wealth beyond imagination. They could have rebuilt. They could have sent another army, another fleet, another attempt. They didn't. Plataea didn't just kill an army, it killed an idea. The idea that Persia was inevitable. that Greek resistance was temporary, that the empire would simply keep pushing until the stubborn little city-states finally broke. After Plataea, the calculus changed. The Greeks weren't just lucky at Marathon, they weren't just clever at Salamis. They could meet Persia's best army in open battle and annihilate it. The invasion ended not because Persia couldn't try again, but because they looked at what happened on that plain and decided the cost would never be worth it. For the Greeks, the effect was opposite. Plataea became proof of what unity could accomplish. Spartans and Athenians, Tegeans and Corinthians, rivals who'd spent generations at each other's throats, they stood together and destroyed the greatest military force of their age. It wouldn't last. Within 50 years, they'd be fighting each other in wars just as brutal. The alliance would shatter into the Peloponnesian catastrophe. But for one afternoon in Boeotia, they were something more than rival cities. They were Greece, the lesson. Here's what Plataea teaches. 25 centuries later, empires don't just lose battles. They lose the ability to function. The most powerful army in the world didn't fall to a superior force. It fell to a sequence of small failures that cascaded into total collapse. Water, communication, intelligence, command, morale. Each one survivable alone. Together, fatal. Systems that look invincible are often held together by single points of failure. One spring, one commander, one decision made in the fog of a single morning. Pressure doesn't need to be overwhelming. It just needs to find the weak link. And when that link breaks, everything connected to it breaks too. Mardonius did everything right. He had the terrain, he had the cavalry, he had the patience. He squeezed the Greeks until they had to move. He attacked when they looked vulnerable. He made one mistake. He was in the wrong place when the spears came down. One corpse. That's all it took. The final image. The plain of Plataea. Late summer. 479 BC. The sun is setting over the Asopus River. The water runs. Darker now, fed by streams no one wants to think about. Smoke rises from the Persian camp. Tents burning. Wagons smoldering. The debris of an empire's ambition turning to ash. Greek soldiers move through the carnage, stripping the dead, collecting weapons, gathering gold they'll argue about for years. Somewhere, a priest is preparing the sacrifices to thank the gods. Somewhere else, Pausanias is dictating messages to send south. We won. It's over. Greece is free. And on the field, among the thousands of Persian dead, lies the body of Mardonius, the man who burned Athens, the man who nearly split the alliance, the man Xerxes trusted to finish what he started. He almost did. One decision away, 1 hour away, one arrow or stone or spear thrust away from victory. Instead, he's a corpse in the dirt, and his army is gone, and his empire will never stand on this ground again. One battle, one day, one corpse, and an empire's European ambition, gone with the summer light. Sometimes history doesn't turn on years of grinding war. Sometimes it turns on a single chain reaction you never see coming. Until everything that could go wrong does, all at once, and there's nothing left but smoke and silence and the long walk home.